Charlie Kirk's organization, for instance, kept a watch list of professors on university campuses who they felt were too progressive, too liberal, too woke. So, you can argue that Charlie Kirk was in favor of free speech, but also he had some pretty radical views himself as well.
The American conservative podcaster Charlie Kirk has been hailed as a martyr at a memorial in Arizona. Allies, including Donald Trump, gathered to pay tribute to Kirk after his assassination last week. Among the speakers was his wife Erica, whose message was that of forgiveness.
On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Apologies for that. I obviously meant the week before last, not last week. Meanwhile, the US president had this to say.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica.
Joining me on this is US reporter Harriet Alexander. Harriet, let's start with the memorial. Was it a funeral or a rally?
It was a combination of the two. At moments, it was very much a funeral. There were hymns. There was a lot of religion. There was a lot of tributes paid to Charlie Kirk. But there was also an awful lot of politics. It was a real blend of the two. And we just heard Donald Trump there. We heard him talking about what Charlie believed. But also, Trump spoke for 45 minutes. So a lot of that was about politics. A lot of that was about what he wanted to do. And sometimes he'd say in Charlie's name, he was doing things like, sending in immigration officials to Chicago, taking over control of the police there, which has been a very contentious issue. So it was a very potent mix of both religion and politics, which is what Charlie Kirk really specialized in.
Is there a feeling that Donald Trump is going to use this opportunity, if I can call it that, to really turn the screw and do some fairly radical stuff?
Yeah, and I think the proof of that, really, Dom, is in the fact that the word martyr was used so often, not just by the president, but by his son, Donald Trump Jr., who was very close to Charlie Kirk. Don Jr. saw Charlie as his little brother. And J.D. Vance, the vice president, talked about how it was really Charlie Kirk who got him into politics. And that's actually true. It was Charlie Kirk who lobbied Don Jr. and the rest of the family to select J.D. Vance as Trump's running mate. So, yeah, a martyr and somebody who is going to be used, I think, for the MAGA cause. I think that's already being shown by the clampdown on free speech, which we've seen in the past few days.
I think what was striking as well was the amount of young people there. Obviously, Charlie Kirk very much appealing, and his work, if you like, was going and arguing with college students, and a lot of people saying that he was responsible for getting out the young vote for Donald Trump. What was the feeling like in the crowd in the stadium yesterday?
Well, a lot of young people, but it was really across all generations. I mean, there was a lot of grandparents there who were taking their grandkids. Perhaps the grandkids were fans of Charlie Kirk, and the grandparents supported Donald Trump. It's interesting the fact that it was being held in Arizona, which is such a crucial swing state, really. People on all political sides want to claim Arizona chosen because that's where Charlie Kirk lived. But, you had people outside the stadium who were signing up voters. So it was very much the feeling of a rally. It was to galvanize the MAGA movement. It was to give a spine, I think, to people who really felt energized by what Charlie Kirk was saying. And there was a lot of talk about how things were going to be done in Charlie's memory and Charlie's honor, in Charlie's name. So it was really to sort of encourage the faithful, I think, rather than to broaden the church, to get more people involved.
But the contrast was stark, wasn't it, between Erica, Charlie Kirk's wife, who was, forgave the shooter, whereas the rhetoric from the MAGA crew, if you like, was pretty high. White House Deputy Chief of Staff said his side would defeat the forces of darkness and evil. I mean, how bad could it get?
Well, that's what everyone is sort of on tenterhooks right now, wanting to know what they're going to do with this. Yeah, that's Stephen Miller you were referring to. He's one of the most hardline people in Donald Trump's orbit, very influential figure, and he's someone who's very determined on immigration, for instance. That's his real big bugbear.
He's about, I think, the only person in the administration that's been there all the way through, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the few for sure. He's a real loyalist, and he's risen up and up through the ranks. And yeah, he is somebody who sees this as a rallying cry to push even harder.
Push at what, though? What are the levers that the government could enforce?
Well, that's a really good question, because what's circulating a lot online now is that Charlie Kirk himself said last year that hate speech does not exist legally in America. He said there's ugly speech and there's gross speech and there's evil speech, but it's all protected by the First Amendment. A lot of people are pointing to that and saying what you are doing is actually counter to what Charlie Kirk believed in, which was freedom of speech, they would say. Of course, it's never quite that clear cut. I mean, Charlie Kirk's organization, for instance, kept a watch list of professors on university campuses who they felt were too progressive, too liberal, too woke. So, you can argue that Charlie Kirk was in favor of free speech, but also he had some pretty radical views himself as well.
Now, it wouldn't be, whether it was a funeral or not, involving Donald Trump, there were bound to be some surprises. One was a sort of reconciliation, very mild, between Trump and Elon Musk. Can we expect to see a return of the bromance?
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? I was happy to see that they got the lip readers involved to try and work out what was
very
said.
difficult to read Musk even with the lip readers, I think. But
well, quite. I mean, so Musk wasn't designed. He wasn't invited to sit next to Donald Trump, but there was an empty seat while Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, was speaking. So Musk sort of slid into the seat and shook Donald Trump's hand. And apparently, Trump said to him, "I heard you wanted to talk. We should talk." And he patted Elon on the knee and said, "I've missed you." So, we'll see watch this space. I think it's quite intriguing, isn't it?
It's one of those weird things about Trump. He does appear to be able to blow up with people, but then kind of forget about it. He's like a goldfish sometimes, maybe. He just cracks on with it. Now, one of the things, obviously, it's been quite a while since Trump has delved into the world of medicine. We know he's got his views on stuff, and he teased an upcoming announcement believing there's a supposed cure for autism. What do we know about that?
Well, it's not so much a cure. It's more that they are looking at banning this drug called Tylenol, which is not banning it. They're suggesting to people that are pregnant that they don't take it because they're saying there's a link between autism and this incredibly routine painkiller. The manufacturers of this drug are saying that's absolute nonsense and it's all been discredited. This, of course, is coming from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the health secretary, who's the champion of this. It's called MAHA, Make America Healthy Again movement. He is very much against people taking all sorts of medicines and vaccinations.
Everything, as far as I know.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about him is that some of what he says, a lot of people would broadly agree with, right? So
that's what's strange about him, isn't he? Because he's into healthy, healthy living, healthy eating. No one disputes with that. Maybe stuff for kids. But on the other hand, he's this massive anti-vaxxer and there's a lot of people resigning, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, on the one hand, he's saying let's have less food colorings and additives in our food. The big example is a cereal out here, breakfast cereal that's often given to kids, and the Canadian version is all sort of quite muted colors, the browns of the wheat and whatever, and the American one is just fluorescent. It's day glow. It's super bright because of all the chemicals that are in it. So that's the example that is clung to. So a lot of people feel that Kennedy is onto something about reducing some of the chemicals in foods. But then when he starts linking, common vaccinations, very common over-the-counter drugs with things like autism, that's when he starts to lose a lot of support. But Donald Trump really likes him. He has Trump's backing. He has the backing of a lot of people within the conservative establishment. So for now, we're just going to hear more and more of these somewhat bizarre proclamations.
And farewell to Neon Cereal. Harriet Alexander, US reporter, thank you very much for joining me.